I mean, their brain is focused on paying attention to you to follow direction, that they're not attending to everything else. So working reactive dogs, the number one thing I see is when people are walking their dogs, they're on their phone or looking around and the dog is doing its own thing. There are two individuals on a walk and they are not on it together. They're not having the same walk. And then all of a sudden the dog, while he's completely ignoring his people, sees another dog and goes, fuck you. And you're like, oh, let me try to fix that. No, it's about keeping engaging. When we're out, and I know people laugh, I am having a full-on conversation with this dog. He's sniffing a leaf, and I'm looking at that leaf. And is that a good sniff? Yeah. Who was here, Bubba? All right, let's go over here. Fuck that leaf. All right, well, because if you want your dog to pay attention to you, you need to pay attention to your dog. That's oftentimes, thank you for calling attention to that word job. So many people think of it as like a sit stay or man the fence kind of thing. Carry the bucket, fetch the paper. No, it's relationship. He's not a good example right now, but typically when we're at work, actually this is wonderful. Sophie Circle, a local rescue rescuer, had a Rainbow Bridge Memorial walk a few months ago. And I had a tent and I brought him and he was on his place. And I was standing by my tent having a conversation with people. And people kept stopping and taking pictures. I was like, what the hell's going on? I looked down. He's just eyes up staring at me the whole time. For hours. It was, Mom's wearing her pouch. I've got my work collar on. There's people and dogs. I know what's expected of him. Now, does he do that partially because he's just a dog that loves me and wants to make me happy? Yes. But this is also 8.5 years of training him that every time we're around dogs and people, he's to pay attention to me. And I pay him for it like he's an anesthesiologist. So the payment for your dogs is really, really important. And I don't want to take up that much time, but the way that I work with dogs in creating this relationship is really heavily based on the theory of capitalism. Not how it absolutely doesn't work in this country, but the concept that a dog is always doing what he finds. He's on a permanent day off. And if I call you on your day off, you are likely engaged in what you want to do, what you find fun, or it might suck mowing the grass, but you know you don't want to see snakes, and you know you like how pretty it looks afterwards. Doing things that benefit you, that reinforce you. If what he finds reinforcing is the eye fucking and going after that dog, and I want him to stop doing that, or I want you to stop painting your house and come over and help me garden on your day off, I need to give you something to make it worth it. That might be our relationship. It might be dinner. It might be $1,000. For him, belly rubs, any amount of food, and interaction. He just craves the interaction. You couldn't tell right now, but also a little bit of dementia. I want to throw that out there. A little bit of dementia we're dealing with. So, but yeah, so your payment's going to matter. The way you pay your dog for their behavior, for their cooperation, I see a lot of people ask their dog, they get the dog to sit at home, but they don't treat him. You ask the dog to sit 10 times a day, you never give him a payment for it. You get out in the world, he's on the leash, someone's going, oh my God, your dog's so cute. And you're like, sit. He's like, no, that person is going to love him. You've never paid me for this ever. Why would I do it right now? That's how you make yourself important. Okay? And so this is something I would like to talk about in the talk. Yeah.
Do you do any method like relating to how kennel behavior, if it's like bad kennel behavior, treating with treats when you sit, like how do you?
Yes, absolutely. So when we were at the Halifax Humane Society, we were working with some serious dogs. They weren't necessarily aggressive, but it was painful. And they would jump and they would bite and they would take the leash and they would knock you down. And it was a problem. And so what I started doing is as soon as they could see me through the kennel in the walkway, I stopped until they were calm. As soon as they were calm, I play red light, green light. You're calm, green light. You want to act an ass? Red light, green light. And that takes time. So you have to have, and doing it and not being consistent. So let's let's say for 2 days, you're perfect about it. You start walking up and he starts wiggling his butt and you go, oh, he's fine. That's breaking trust because you're not consistent. That's not a clear communication to that dog of what is okay and what isn't okay. And that's where we get in trouble because we want to give our dogs the benefit of the doubt. Oh, they're doing their best. Stop it. No, they're not. They're messing with you. Dogs are just like people in that if I can do 30% of my work and get paid 100%, best I'm showing up at 30%. Same thing. If I ask him to sit and he hem and haws around about it and eventually puts his butt down 5 seconds later while turning his back on me and I treat him for that, it's not good. You want a cookie? All right. Okay. Yes, I know. It's coming. Can you sit? No. Probably cannot sit. All right. Yes, thank you. So I don't know if anyone saw that. I've got treats in my hand, okay? Yes. Yes. Yes, and then you. He's looking at me. He's not looking at the thing he wants. Okay? That is the first skill I teach every dog I work with. Pay attention to the person that's got the good shit. It's that simple. Once you teach focus to your dog or to the shelter dogs, pay attention to me, not that other dog over there. It's easy from there. It's easy from there. Because all you're working on is maintaining that focus regardless of the situation.
It's kind of hard sometimes, though, because when you're walking down the aisle,
there's nothing.
and they're all barking at
Nothing.
you know, it's just...
So there is actually, so GPFL, and this is solves your thing, it's called click for quiet. What the idea is, you have a clicker, you go through the kennels, when the dog has 4 paws on the floor, and is not saying anything, you click, give them a treat, move on to the next dog. If they're barking, you move on. So it basically, by itself, it does it by itself, it's a passive way. And again, GPFL, it's their entire mantra is to come up with things, policies to make shelter practices better. So now again, we need to, more people do it. It can't just be one person. It's got to be people doing it. But the more people do it, the more people make the rewarding then. Yeah.
It could be one person. Because dogs aren't stupid. They're going to learn that there are rules. But the rest of you, I'm going to do what I want. Okay? But if our goal is to help these dogs succeed, consistency should be our number one thing. Yes.
Speaking of which, dogs here have resistance to each other. Regardless of how many times I stop and, wait for them to look at me and say yes and treat them and move on until he stops pulling. Eventually, I'll end up picking the same dog after I walk and he'll still be pulling on the leash the same way.
I do not train leash manners in a shelter. It is absolutely, I don't think it's an ethical thing to do. They are in a kennel and they are surrounded by chaos and they just want to get away from it. Leash a dog and run. Go. Get out of there. And then you can start working on calm on leash out there. That's how I do it. Because for me, a dog is not just a dog. If that dog, there is a difference between a dog who's not doing what you've asked, who's actively choosing the and there's a difference between a dog who can't do what you're asking. And there's also a dog who has no idea what you're asking because you're so inconsistent, it's confusing. So when you have a dog who you are sure you've been consistent, you're sure you've given them a solid education on what it is that you want, and they're still not cooperating, you then have to decide, are they saying no thanks, it's not worth it, or are they unable to do what you're asking because they're too stressed, they're too sick, they're too anxious, they're too fearful. That is not a dog that you are going to consequence your way out of the situation.
I just, before I got here, I got finished walking Maze, and she's an Energizer bunny. I let her, if you let her off a leash, she'll go 50 miles an hour for like an hour.
So, you remember when the pandemic hit and we all had to sit in our house for 4 weeks?
Yeah.
lost their shit 2 weeks in.
Parents.
Do you think your dogs are in your house 20 plus hours a day, every day of their life? If you couldn't do it in the house you got, you decorated, you live in, you set up to be the way you want, how do you think your dog's feeling? Now make it worse. Put them in a kennel. These dogs are not set up to be trained. They're not. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do certain things. There are ways that we can help them. Simple things like click for quiet or whatever. Listen, clickers are not my thing. It's another thing I have to carry. I use the word yes. So when a dog makes the right decision, I go, yes. You'll also find a lot of dogs are reactive to the sound of a clicker. Right? So for me, I don't click for anything. I yes for whatever.
Then I'll let them put my mouth.
Yeah, you can. I always have my mouth on me, so.
Yeah.
How about when they turn around? I get a lot where I loose leash and they turn around and start grabbing at your leash.
Frustrating.
Leash climbing.
And then they're actually biting my wrists.
It's
And
leash.
then they'll pull this off, and I have a loose dog, and I'm like, oh my God.
I'm going to leave leashing dogs to Graham. This is one of the things that we are different on because of DPFL. They use the slip leads.
No, we don't use slip leads.
No.
Don't.
Absolutely
I
no
do.
slip leads.
Stop
Absolutely not.
using the fucking slip lead.
Thank you, please.
No, because I use it as a harness.
Stop. So you're going to put you in the corner. Here's why. You've been told that's what to do. There are whole situations out there where they swear by the slip collar and then you loop it around the stop. You're just squeezing their intestines. Most people aren't paying enough attention to the dog to keep it up around here. The best thing to do is whatever Graham's telling you to do. Right? What the hell was I going to say?
But then they still jump up and
Yes.
climb.
So it's
Frustration. Again, all I'm hearing is, but the dog's doing this, the dog's doing this, the dog's doing this. Take a step back. Why do you think the dog is losing their shit when you
Because he
come
wants to get the hell out. I get it, but just tell me what to do when it happens.
step out?
Just get them out.
Get him out.
But sometimes I can't because he's coming at me, and it's like, okay, come on, and I'm like,
Yeah. Okay.
I can't get him out the door.
Yeah, what I noticed with Polo, when he grabs the leash, eventually he'll let go. It's like he's sniffing around.
Yeah, they're fine.
Polo just likes to hold it.
Another thing that biting the leash is yes, biting the leash is a very clear sign of frustration because they're walked by different people and every person's giving them different rules, and so they see that leash and they go no thanks, and they go fuck that, or they fight it, and that's because we don't have a system likely that we all follow and are all trained on.
Yes.
And hey, you're not doing it right, and you're not helping each other. Sorry,
That's okay.
but whatever it is,
Do you give him a toy? Do you have a toy in your other hand?
you can. You can absolutely put this in your mouth so we can get out the door.
Like, look.
I have never been back in your kennels. I cannot give advice on how to do this without going back there, and I can't go back there because I will cry ugly tears, and I will put me in a really bad place for a long time. Okay? But if I can get a schematic or I can see what you're doing, I can give you pointers on it, but so can Graham.
But
Yes.
so I've been sitting here and listening, and I'm not very good at that. And everybody else except you in this room knows that. But I guess that's part of the challenge, is that we aren't doing the same things.
Absolutely.
So we've gone through training, right? The leash training and the stop and, wait for them to turn or back up a little bit.
Release
or,
pressure.
and I think that's where we need to make the commitment, is that everybody does it and does it the same way.
Well, here's what the problem
Because that's the frustration that I have, is that I try. Granted, I haven't been here for a couple of months, but, but when I was doing it constantly, before my injury. It was, let's just all do it the same way, and we don't.
Well,
And that's
because
a
people don't
commitment not
come.
from you, but from everybody else.
Yeah, we need to all gather together, the ones that are faithfully walking, because that's the other problem. We have people who come to the training, and then they come for 2 weeks and then they don't come again. And we need, like you said, consistency. But I think what has to happen is we used to have a meeting like once a month or once every couple of months where we're making sure that we're all doing the same thing. And we don't have those anymore.
Skills workshops can be really helpful. They don't have to be an hour long of someone droning on. It can be 20 minutes. Everybody come in. Let me prove you're doing this right. Here's a problem dog. Here's an easy dog. Let me see you do it on both. Let's go. One of the things I can speak to about, he is absurd now. One of the things I can speak to from working with private clients is that we can, okay, my brain stopped working. One thing I can speak to is we can yell consistency at ourselves and try to, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do that. And that's not a nice way to be to yourself or to other people or to these dogs, because that's not how you make progress. That's not how you achieve things. It has to be more of a values aligned thing, because then when it gets hard, when the dog keeps jumping up, okay, I know I want to take this dog for a walk, but right now might not be the time to take him for a walk. Maybe I mark it down, he goes out later. Because the only way for him to learn that biting the leash isn't going to get him out that door is for us to not get him out the door. But if your main goal is this dog has to get outside today,
Right.
then he's going to never change their behavior. So there's a very fine line. How do I get the dog the enrichment, the exercise, the socialization they need while still upholding these boundaries, expectations? And the easiest way to do that is to pick one thing at a time. If you're trying to work on click for calm, sit when I get to the thing, don't lose your mind on the leash, these dogs aren't going to learn. But if you can spend this month working on click for calm, or like when a dog comes in, I don't know, red skills, green skills, yellow skills. This first couple weeks they're here, we're just focusing on click for calm. The next 2 weeks, this dog is here to move to whatever color. You're welcome. And then we start working on another skill. But that's who's going to head that up? Who's going to take charge of those sheets? And it's a lot, man.
And I think that's a great example too. Because I'll give Callie as an example, because all of these dogs here, the majority of them, they pull. And what we want to do is figure out how to get them not to pull. But like when Jessica started working with Callie, with Callie and Kim, who they've become my foster family now. But I said, Jessica, can't you jump ahead to the leash training? Because we got them so many sessions, and she's like, no, I can't, because we have to start here with the enrichment, with
relationship,
with
trust,
the relationship
focus.
and everything. So we want things to happen so quickly. But I can tell you that leash training didn't come until the 5th or,
and that was way fast.
And so it's interesting is we really want this to happen here, but there's so many other things that because it's a shelter that we really don't have the time to do it. So just kind of being consistent.
I would say that okay, we know this. We know there's an argument, and I have stopped doing it because it's been so stressful. There is over here we have martingales, loose leash walking, working walk, and then there's over here which is slip leads, right? There is a divide. Administration is all for slip leads, right? If you go ask the administration, if you ask staff,
Then you
they're
guys
gonna
meet
say,
together and decide as a group,
we try.
Grant. Have a meeting and decide.
If I could get some volunteer buy-in, that we want to pick one or the other,
It shouldn't be. You guys.
I agree.
It shouldn't be that hard.
I agree. Trust me, it's something that I've had to deal with. But that's so. Yeah. So that's.
And they're passing around cards.
Can I just
Text me, do not call me.
So I'm sorry, no, but I
Don't
don't
have them down.
So I respectfully disagree. So I was a slip lead, right? You know that.
Yep.
And I still believe in slip leads, for certain dogs, that are extremely challenging. But I also, use the leash with martingale. for the majority of the dogs.
Yep.
So, I don't know that there's that huge divide of slip lead versus leash. I have both. I use both.
Yep.
I honestly, and I might sound like a broken record. I think it's a commitment to consistency that we do not have.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. But my thing is we need to pick one. But yeah, I just don't want to that's not a hill I want to die on anymore. I want to do whatever you guys want to do, whatever anybody else wants to do.
Then let's pick one. Let's use a clip lead. And if we feel uncomfortable, Graham, with a dog that is so damn strong that I cannot use a martingale, then we use our...
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's do it.
Easy walk harnesses too.
Yes.
Those work the same way.
And honestly, I remember specifically, Karen, you speaking up. I want my slip lead. I'm like, they walk pretty good on those clip leashes now. They're pretty used to it. They're still cool.
I think we should just choose to take the dog out we can handle.
That's true too.
Whether it's
Awesome.
orange or green or yellow,
Awesome.
if you can't handle the dog because he's too big, too strong. I can't handle Ricky anymore.
Yeah.
I love Ricky and I would love to take him for a walk. I can't handle Ricky, so I don't take him out.
That makes sense too, Debbie.
Don't take the dog out if he's going to overreact or
I also think
Overpower you. Yeah, you have to be in control first.
every day. I think.
Right, but Kendra would tell you if that's true, that a dog is changing colors. There are times, whether it's the kennel situation that is affecting them, whatever it is, and they're going from green to orange, then if you just have a conversation with any of the staff, you guys are all open to that, saying, hey, here's the situation, your color gets changed.
Yes, Stephanie and I talk Fridays.
Yeah.
I think this week this yellow can go through.
So y'all can still clip them.
Yeah, so I think that if that's the case,
on a daily basis, they could be orange, but one day they might feel like they're green, and it's easier to take in. I don't think necessarily all dogs are green, all dogs are orange.
And you know what? Ask too.
I'm sorry?
Ask.
well, they have trade rights.
Ask.
If there's questions about dogs, ask. I mean,
Yeah.
they can all say, I come and I say, how's Ricky? How's, give me
What kind
tips,
of
right?
day?
If you don't know them,
Like she said,
Ask.
sometimes we're in bitchy moods.
Right. No, it's 100%. And I tell people this all the time with my private clients. Know where you're at that day.
Right.
Yeah.
And listen, I just got done with a 4-day absolute fucking slump. I did not train my dogs at all those 4 days. At all. Didn't ask for a sit, didn't do anything because my energy wasn't right. And they have off days too. And so it's, man, do your best. If I can make a suggestion, use that Facebook group to keep up. Post an update. Hey, took Ricky out today. He was a total asshole. And then, I know why, because they cut his nails.
No. I can say whatever you want. No censorship. Absolutely not.
I meant my Facebook.
Yeah. Okay.
In the group. Use the group as a tool to help the dogs, to communicate with each other, because I'm not this is a social psychic, right? So when I'm working dogs, though, I don't want to have a conversation, or maybe I don't want to bother you because you look busy, or maybe I think you're mad at me, whatever it might be, but I can go on a Facebook group and I can communicate that way.
Yeah.
And that might be easier for some folks if they don't want to approach or whatever it might be in the moment. But those Facebook groups are super helpful. They can be.
Yeah.
Can be. Anything else for me? Yes, what?
So I have a dog here that, I kind of, have a relationship with. And every time I try to leave the kennel, he jumps up, snaps at my hands, or I'll be walking him and he'll just randomly turn around and, start snapping. What could I do to try to?
So what's probably happening is the dog is overstimulated.
Yeah.
And different things we do can push that further. it really depends on the dog. I have to see him to know what's going on. The jumping up at you and biting when you're going to leave is don't fucking leave me.
Yeah.
So counter condition. Ask him for a sit, throw a bunch of food on the floor, and get the hell out. Yeah. Right? I mean, find a way around it. Train him to do something else. And that stuff's easy. You sit, throw a bunch of food, get out. Yeah. Start making you leaving more exciting. Maybe once you're out, take a handful and dump it over his kennel. Because then, yeah, it sucks that you're leaving me, but look at that.
Yeah. I just don't want him to get adopted and you know, when he's...
Something I can tell you from research is that most of the problems you see in these dogs in the shelter are resolved in 3 months after being in a home. Mm-hmm. Kennel aggression, leash reactivity, food, resource guarding is the major reason dogs get put down in shelters, but it has a 10% viability once it's out. 90% of the dogs that show resource guarding in here do not show it after 3 months in a home. But how many of those dogs get killed?
Yeah.
Because they put a fucking hand in a bowl. I mean, anyhow.
Yeah. Graham, I think Michelle took something of the like with your dog, right? The food fell on the floor. She went to pick it up and got bit over it.
She didn't get bit, but she was scared she was going.
Oh, scared?
Okay. I mean, again, from a place of understanding, when you work with a special needs population, which is what this is, you have to expect some misbehavior, some misplaced aggression. If I'm in a kennel with a dog that's shown any kind of resource guarding, whether it's person, toy, access, whatever, and food falls on the floor, you can bet I'm going to throw food over there before I pick it up, or I'm going to put that dog out in the yard before I pick it up. But most of us, again, aren't thinking like that. Another thing is really slowing down and being mindful. Who is this dog? Where am I at? What's going on? And this hit me in the ass the other day. Massive Neapolitan, massive I'm helping with. Wasn't thinking he's being super friendly. I went like this with my sunglasses on. That fucker came at me like a lion. Yeah. Thankfully, though, I think he was playing because my arm was in his mouth multiple times and no teeth. Yeah, dude, I was.
But was it the sunglasses?
I think
Yeah.
But yeah, and some other things are going on with him. But yeah, I think it was the sunglasses. It could have been me leaning over him. It was just me not being on point.
Yep.
And that's going to happen. You're going to make mistakes. It happens. You just have. No one's perfect. I think that's one thing people always expect trainers or behaviorists to be perfect or have perfect dogs. No. We're humans. We screw up just as much as you, and probably more, to be honest. Did you just fart?
So many treats. That'll be a nice ride home.
Go ahead, honey.
No, that's the third part.
No, I'm sure there have been plenty of them. You're getting tired?
Yeah.
Quit walking. I know. You sleepy boy, huh? Okay, fuck me. And to be fair, we live a pretty hermit life, so like when he comes out and sees people, he is like, oh my god. There's a whole other world out there.
People with treats in their pockets.
And I'm not giving him any direction. He's
Do you use certain commands over other commands, or is that also about consistent?
You could speak Russian. It doesn't matter what you use as long as you use the same thing every time you do it.
Even if I use something different than she uses.
That is our goal in working with dogs is to make it as easy for them to make the right choice. So if you're using sit and you're using sit down, that is a problem. It makes it more difficult. Now, will the dog eventually learn that what you say is sit and what you say is sit down means the same thing? Yeah, they will, but it makes it harder for them to learn it. It's sort of like I could teach you arithmetic on a roller coaster, but I'd rather do it in a classroom. You know what I mean? But as far as the words you choose, it doesn't matter. I have always wanted to train a dog in food names. Potato, corn, whatever, instead of sit, come, stay. Just because that doesn't matter. Yeah, I know. You probably want to go. I get it. Don't to him. Thank you. Both eyes, little catty wampus, buddy. Saturday.
How old is he?
He's 12.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
He looks great.
Yeah.
He has better health care than I.
Exactly.
I can have to.
Oh, we're done.
Okay.
I've
Thank you so much for coming. So,
Absolutely. Do you guys want to take a group photo or anything?
Yes.
You have